March of Dimes is the leader in the fight for the health of all moms and babies. They support research, lead programs, and provide education and advocacy so that every baby can have the best possible start. Building on a successful 80-year legacy of impact and innovation, they empower every mom and every family. And in January 2020, they're observing National Birth Defects Prevention Month. For more information, visit marchofdimes.org/parentinggreatkids. For 30 plus years, I've seen every type of child grow up.
Instead of giving me what I wanted, she gave me what I needed, which was truth.
Don't let emotions win. Let truth win.
Do your very best, and you should have a lot of fun while you do it. And the better you get at something, the more fun you're going to have at something.
You moms and dads are wired with everything you need to be a parent to a great kid. Welcome to Parenting Great Kids. I'm your host, Dr. Meg Meeker, and I have a really fun show prepared for you today. I am going to be the guest, and Lisbeth Keen is going to be interviewing me on my brand new book, Raising a Strong Daughter in a Toxic Culture, 11 Steps to Keeping Her Healthy, Happy, and Safe. As always, I'll share my points to ponder for you to start using right away. And remember, parents, don't just download the episodes. Click on the subscribe button, because when you do that, you are joining my parenting revolution. Also, not only are we on iTunes, but the PGK podcast is also available in the Google Play Store and on Stitcher. So no matter where you get your podcast, subscribe today. I want you now to listen in on an interview that Lisbeth Keen did with me. Well, today I'm excited to be talking about my brand new book, Raising a Strong Daughter in a Toxic Culture. And I really wrote this because my heart is in helping parents help their kids navigate a world that really seems pretty frightening to us. So my guest, Lisbeth Keen, is going to be asking me questions about my book. Thanks for being here, Lisbeth.
Oh, my pleasure, Meg. I love what you do, and I love being able to be a part of it.
Thank you.
So, Meg, you've been working on this book for a while now, and your title suggests that the book is very different than others that you have written before. Why is that, and how is that?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. You know, over the past really 10 years, I've seen a big shift in A, our culture, and B, in parents' attitudes about parenting. I don't really want to say attitudes, but their fears. I'm sensing, particularly in the past 5 years, there's a lot of anxiety that parents have about helping, particularly their daughters, navigate a lot of negative influences that are coming at them, and they just literally didn't know what to do. So it is very different from my other books. I really wrote the book to say, look, you know, yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff out there. Social media, sexualization of our kids, drugs, depression, anxiety. But here's the thing, parents, you can do this. You know, as long as your eyes are open and you know what's happening, roll up your sleeves and let's tackle these problems and help your kids navigate it. Because the truth of the matter is, no matter how bad the world is, you have all the power and you can absolutely raise a strong daughter who hits her 20s and her mid-20s, who's a wonderful young woman. So don't be afraid. Let's just do this.
Absolutely. And why do you think parents are so afraid right now?
You know, one of the things they hear a lot about is depression and anxiety in kids. You know, we recently had that show, 13 Reasons Why, which I thought was horrifying. It's about, you know, why kids may want to commit suicide and what goes on their minds. And the truth is that studies show that after that show came out, suicides in kids actually went up. And, you know, for me, it was very ill-conceived because you can't just go to TV and teach kids why they shouldn't commit suicide.
Right.
So I think parents are keenly aware of the fact that depression is there in kids and it's on the rise. Anxiety is there and it's on the rise in girls. Girls are confused about the whole transgender thing. You know, that's new in the past 5 or 6 years. And, so parents have always been worried, but now things have really ramped up. And I think parents are kind of scared. They don't want their kids to fall into stuff that they feel is going to hurt their kids. And they also want to make sure that they see signs if if their daughters are getting into trouble.
Right. Right. It's a hands-on approach. They want to, be caught prepared.
Right.
Which is really wonderful actually about your book, because it's a hopeful book. It doesn't just talk about the things that are horrible or harmful that girls, their daughters are going to face, but it offers very practical things that parents can do. I know right at the beginning of the book, you have a whole chapter on answering her 4 biggest questions. What are those questions and why are they important?
Well, I put them right at the front of the book because they're really existential questions, but they're girls in the deepest part of who they are, in their soul, in their heart, in their emotions, need to know who they are. And unfortunately, we as parents tend to teach our kids how to do well at stuff. They're really good at gymnastics when they're 3, so we got to sign them up. Or, we want them to get straight A's. We want them to be great at, sports and this kind of thing. So basically, our focus as well-meaning parents is to help our kids perform well. The problem with that is, even though kids can perform well, there are many kids, 8, 15, 18, who really don't know why they're alive. They don't know what their purpose is. They don't know what their value is. So that's right at the beginning of the book. I said, okay, parents, here are questions that if you answer for your kids, you are going to set them on a great course in life. You're going to sink their roots deep, and they're going to be less likely to feel that their value comes from other things. So the first question is, and honestly, even 5-year-olds want to know this because they're very curious about what they can't see. So the first question is, where did I come from? Mom and dad, am I here by accident? Am I here because you just picked me out, or because you wanted to have a baby, or did I just sort of appear? Or was I created for something? The second question is, do I have significance? Do I have value? This is critically important. A lot of parents would look at their kids and say, well, of course they know they're valuable to me and they know their significance. But what I hear from kids of all ages is, I really don't know. Interestingly, I say, well, tell me who loves you in your life. And they'll go, well, I know my mom has to, and my dad does, but I'm not really sure. So even though we as parents may think our kids understand why they're worth something and why they're valuable, don't assume they know that. The third question is there a moral compass? Is there a right and a wrong? Is there a way to live my life? Are there rules? Are there boundaries? Because in a young child's mind, even a teenager's mind, they need to know how to live and what's good and what's bad. And it's interesting because they're instinctively given this knowledge. A 9-month-old can crawl around and yank her dog's tail, and if you look at her face, she goes, ooh, I just did something wrong. So they intuitively know, because I believe God placed that in them. This is right and this is wrong. But when they don't see that affirmed by their parents or their friends or teachers, they really start to wonder, well, if they're not affirming it, what's wrong with me? This happens particularly when parents allow their kids to make so many decisions that they're really not prepared to make. And the fourth question is, where am I going? Not only where am I going after I die, but where am I going in the next 5 years? I'm 15 now. Where should I be when I'm 25? What's the plan here? And kids need their parents to really talk to that. So if parents really dive into those and really work hard to teach their kids where their value is, that their value and significance comes from the fact that they were made by God with his handprint stamped on them for a purpose that's much deeper and more significant than just doing really well at soccer or getting into Yale, or going into grad school, that it's much deeper than that. Those are kids who really are going to get life and be far less likely to turn to have their questions answered, say, in social media or by their peers or a boyfriend, whatever.
That's so important. You mention all the time how important it is for parents to have that intentional time with their children. Specifically, just as kind of a side question, how important is it for a father and a daughter to have that connection? How does that shape her world?
It's very interesting. The father-daughter relationship is very different from the mother-daughter relationship. And we're kind of living in a time where we, particularly women, say, well, they're not that much different. As long as there's love and as long as there's encouragement and affirmation and so forth, life will be good. But if you ask a child, mom is very different from dad. Specifically, a daughter looks to her father to teach her about male love and male trust. Because if you think about it, when a daughter's born, her father is her first introduction to male love. And if she learns to trust him and she learns to feel loved by him and nurtured by him and she attaches to him, he really sets the course for how her relationships with other male figures will be. Her brother, her teachers, uncles, even God himself, God the Father. And so it's very important that dads have a strong relationship with their daughters. Daughters also look towards their dad for affirmation, for self-esteem. This is very interesting. I haven't ever seen it in a study, but it's my experience that daughters feel their moms have to love them. And so that's why moms wear a dartboard on their back and girls just throw it at them all the time. Like, I can beat up my mom because she can't go anywhere. She's a mom. But my dad, he has a choice of whether he's here. He has a choice of whether he says something nice about me or not. So when I was growing up, I remember, and maybe people can relate to this, but my mom would say, oh, you did such a good job. Oh, I'm so happy about your game that you played. And I go, yeah. But when my dad said something, it really meant something because I didn't expect my dad to say it. So a dad holds a power in a daughter's life that's very different from her mother. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just very, very different.
On the flip side of that, I'm sure there will be people listening, mothers in particular, who are like, oh, dad's not in the picture, or he's not very involved, or he's maybe not the best role model for my daughters. What can you speak to in that situation? What hope can you give mom?
Well, that's a great question because I have a lot of single moms in my practice, and there's really good news for them. And that is that you can't be two people at once. I think that a lot of single mothers work extremely hard at trying to be mom and dad, to, quote, give their kids things that their husband or dad would if he were around. But the truth is they can't. So the good news is stop trying. Be a really great mom, but you can't be a mom and a dad. So give yourself a huge pass. You can raise a great daughter. And I go into a whole chapter on what mothers give their daughters and how their mothers are really their mentor. But I say to single moms, because you can't be both male and female, and your daughter does need male influence, look around and find a man who is a great role model for your daughter. It could be your dad. It could be an uncle. It could be, an older brother. It could be a friend of yours who's married and has a stable family. And just, ask that man if he would mind just sort of spending a little bit of time with your daughter. I've had some families who are friends with a single mom who will say to her, hey, can I take your daughter on vacation with us? And that's a wonderful thing to do if you know of a single mom who has a daughter. Or dads, if you know a single mom who has a daughter who plays basketball with your daughter, ask to pick her up and drive her to practice. Take them out for ice cream afterwards. Just little things like that teach your daughter what a good man behaves like, how he talks, how he interacts with her, that he interacts with respect, that he doesn't swear a lot, because it's really important for her to have a picture in her mind of how a good man behaves. It's also important if a daughter can see how you as mom interact with a healthy male. You know, that she sees you talk to either your brother or your father or whatever. And if she sees them respect you, that's going to give her a good sense of how a man should treat her when she's older. So she doesn't necessarily have to be close to a father figure, though it's great if she can be. But at least she can see how they interact and behave, and they can model for her what good men look like.
How important is it for a healthy marriage to be viewed by a daughter growing up? What effect does that have on her view of love and relationships?
You know, it's really enormous. And I know that that's kind of bad news for a lot of parents who've been divorced or they have a bad marriage or whatever, because there are plenty of parents out there who are divorced. But what parents need to understand is, because I hear this all the time, I don't want my kids to grow up in a family where we're always fighting. I don't want them exposed to that. So we're going to get divorced. But here's the erroneous thinking in that. Daughters are more concerned about themselves in the home and their own safety than they are with your happiness, mom and dad. What breaks their heart is divorce. What doesn't necessarily break their heart is seeing their parents arguing. Now, if there's frank abuse, of course you need to leave, you know, your husband or whatever. If there's violence in the home, if there's a lot of verbal violence, that's a bad situation. But what I encourage a lot of married people to do, particularly with young kids, is even though you're having a terrible time now and you're arguing for years and years, hold on. Because a lot of your arguments stem around parenting, but parenting is going to change as you get older. A lot of arguments stem around money. Your money situation is going to change as you get older. So if you can hang on during those difficult periods, often, very frequently, a healthy marriage emerges on the other side. And so then you have the opportunity to show your daughter what a really strong marriage looks like. And that's very important for many reasons. A, it gives her tremendous amount of security. When kids are living back and forth between parents, they worry about their parents. They worry about their mom being lonely. They worry about their mom financially. They worry about their dad being lonely. They worry about their dad, you know, having this or that. And those worries are really too much for a child. And it's very, very hard. So, what I really encourage parents to do is to just do their best to work as hard as they can, to stay together, to give that daughter security, to make her feel safe, to free her up from worrying about them, and to give her one place to go to day after day after day, not two homes, but one home. So any parent who's been through a divorce with their own parents knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's very destabilizing. You know, abuse, divorce is very destabilizing to a young girl, even to an older girl. So that's hard news to hear, but it's also kind of good news, because often if there isn't frank abuse and you just hang on, you know, a really good stuff emerges on the other side. I can't tell you how many men and women I've talked with 5 or 8 years after divorce who look back and go, what in the world was I thinking? So I just want to encourage young parents out there. Parents, I hope you're enjoying our conversation. We need to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of the interview between me and Lisbeth Keen. This podcast is brought to you by Magic Spoon, a new cereal company that's discovered a way to recreate your favorite childhood cereals with 0 sugar, 12 grams of protein, and only 3 net grams of carbs in each serving. Magic Spoon offers 4 flavors based on the all-time classics: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and blueberry, plus a variety pack that lets you try them all. They've recreated the taste and texture of classic sugary cereal, but without all the junk that makes them horrible for your health. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. but it tastes so incredible that you and your kids would never guess it was healthy. So now, you and your kids can enjoy breakfast cereal and actually get a nutritious meal out of it. Friends, I need to tell you, I am a sugar addict, and I'm working very hard to get off sugar. Magic Spoon gives me an opportunity to enjoy the taste I've always enjoyed without feeling guilty about sugary foods because there's zero sugar in them. I know you're going to love Magic Spoon cereals. Go to magicspoon.com/Meg to grab a variety pack. Try it today and use promo code MEG at checkout to get free shipping. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. That's magicspoon.com/Meg and code MEG for free shipping. TeenCounseling.com connects your 13 to 19-year-old with a licensed professional counselor right where they spend most of their time, on their smartphone. The process starts by completing a short questionnaire to help them understand your relationship with your teen and their specific needs. You'll then be matched with a skilled therapist in TeenCounseling.com's network of specialists who'll be available to start communicating within 24 hours. You'll have the opportunity to review their credentials and directly communicate with the counselor to make sure it's a good fit. Then, once you approve, the counselor and your teen will begin communicating directly. Teen Counseling is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so it's easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's also more affordable than traditional counseling, and financial aid is available. So, visit teencounseling.com/Meg and help your teen take charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. Parenting Great Kids with Dr. Meg Meeker listeners can get 10% off your first month at teencounseling.com/Meg.
Okay, so Meg, with everything that you mentioned earlier about the type of toxic culture that our daughters are living in now, you've expressed that most parents are concerned with the fact that their daughters feel pressure to be thin, or, in this case, identifying their sexual identity very early on. What can parents really do in those situations?
I routinely ask kids in my practice, particularly junior high on, to girls, what are the biggest things that you struggle with? And without skipping a beat, they say to be thin enough and pretty and to be sexually active. They say, I just feel so much pressure there. So I think it's important for parents to recognize what's coming at their daughters and the pressure they feel, because parents can look at a daughter and go, oh, she's a straight A student. She's captain of her soccer team. She's doing great. I don't have to worry. Well, you kind of do, because that girl is growing up in the same culture as all of her friends. And so the pressures she feels are very much the same. She may not show it on outwardly, but the pressures are very much the same. So the most important thing I encourage parents to do, particularly moms here, is you are the moms, who are going to show your daughter how to be comfortable in her skin, how to be comfortable with her body, and to show her what a strong woman looks like. So it's really important that you teach her and even say things like, honey, you know what? I ask this of the kids in my practice, 4th, 5th, 6th grade. I know there are girls in your class who talk a lot about, oh, I got to lose weight, or, oh, I wish I were prettier, oh, I wish I were skinnier, oh, you're so skinny, I wish I were like you, to somebody in their class. And I say to mothers, you really need to address that and say, are you seeing that in your friends? And they'll usually say, well, yeah, so-and-so and so-and-so. And I said, well, have you thought about that? Do you feel that you need to lose weight? And some parents are afraid to ask that, but ask it, because kids may be thinking of it, and say, well, here's the deal, honey. A lot of girls, as you get older, are going to go on diets. It's really important for you not to do that. And here's why. Whenever you go on a diet and you want to get skinnier, you're basically sort of getting weaker and weaker and weaker. You're getting weaker in your body. You're losing muscle mass. Your job as a young woman is to get stronger mentally, stronger emotionally, stronger spiritually, and stronger physically. And dieting goes against that. It kind of makes you evaporate, if you will. And girls tend to get that. So I really encourage parents, particularly moms, to hit the diet issue head on. Another thing that's very important for parents to do, for mothers, don't talk about your weight all the time. Don't talk about dieting. If you want to go on a diet, do it and be quiet about it. But don't walk around going, and I hear women doing this all the time. Oh, I just got to lose that last 10 pounds. Oh gosh. Or they talk to their friends. Oh, you look so good in your jeans. I wish I looked that good in my jeans. Stop talking about that. Stop talking about your own weight or how you look. It's the best thing you can do to keep your daughter out of trouble and feeling badly about herself. As far as fathers are concerned, it's fine to look at your daughter and say, you're so beautiful. It's fine to say, you look lovely in that dress or whatever. However, it's much more important to praise her character than the way she looks. So train yourself to see, you know what, honey, you're beautiful. You look really pretty in that dress, but I want to tell you where your real beauty comes from. You are so courageous. You had this tenacity to just get things done. I'm really proud of you for that. So you can talk about it, but you need to talk more about praising her character. And finally, another thing that I often see fathers do with the best intentions is they tease girls. And dads think teasing is funny. Men tend to tease a little bit more, and guys tease a little bit more than women. And in teasing, there's always a bit of truth that they're trying to get through the daughter, but it's a truth with a bite. And they will often do this about a girl's weight. They will often look at their daughter and say, you know what? You just need to lose weight. You got thunder thighs going on there. Ha, ha, ha. We hear, one of the fast food companies has a whole ad on thunder thighs and, different things and saying, you don't want that. But girls take that to heart and it makes them feel really badly. So no sarcasm around the way they look and particularly their body shape or body weight.
Meg, so the external stressors that girls are dealing with now, you do go into depth in this in your book about what those stressors are and how to identify them. How can parents help lift the burden that their daughters are carrying every day, and maybe not necessarily completely new stressors from when they were growing up, but they're more obvious now. We have social media. Everybody is accessible 24 hours a day. How is that affecting their girls and how can they help?
Well, it's a great question. I wrote a whole chapter on social media and then a whole chapter on, sexuality, sexual identity and that thing. So I guess I'll take that first. Since girls frequently, routinely tell me they really struggle with what to do about sexual activity, many believe that it's just something you have to do before you graduate high school. And then I come back and say, well, you may think that, but let me tell you what the research shows, that a little over 50% of girls are not sexually active before they graduate high school. They just don't talk about it. So what I encourage parents to do is you have to have repeated talks about sexual activity. Now, you don't always have to go in the nitty-gritty, but you have to reaffirm to your daughter how important it is to delay sexual activity, hopefully until marriage. Actually, the head of the CDC, Julie Gerberding, years ago said, if you really want to keep your daughter from getting cervical cancer, reduce the number of partners to as few as possible, one, and delay sexual debut as long as possible, marriage. And this came from a non-faith-based perspective. So you've got to talk to your daughters about why it's important to wait, why it's important from an emotional standpoint, particularly that sexual activity in the teen years and in college is related to depression. It's related to self-esteem issues. And it's also related to diseases and cervical cancer. There's just tons. I wrote a whole book on that too, because one of my big issues with our culture is the hypersexualization of kids. What parents also have to realize is that kids now, more than 10 years ago for sure, feel that early on in their lives, junior high, even 6th grade, need to stamp their sexual identity and their gender identity. And they need to declare that to their friends. I had a mom of a 5th grade girl write in and said, I'm gay. She was not even fully through puberty. I'm gay, and my friend says she's asexual. And this mother wrote to me like, what do I say? What do I do? And I said, first of all, she's in 5th grade. She doesn't even know what she wants for dinner, let alone, sexual or gender identity. So it's really important for parents because this gender identity comes up over and over and over. I'm strongly opposed to medical intervention in kids under 18, even under 21. If people are adults and they want to do what they're going to do, that's on them. But when kids feel this pressure to identify themselves as gay, straight, trans, or bi, to look at your kids and say, here's the thing. I know you feel pressure about that, but let's put that aside for a little while because you are not your gender identity. You are not your sexual orientation. You are much deeper than that. So let's work on developing the bigger part of who you are and not worry so much about all of that stuff. I spoke at an arts academy several years ago, and I was amazed. I was asked to speak there because I said, and I'm going to tell these kids, I'm going to tell them not to be sexually active. And I walked up and I said, I want to tell you guys something. You feel pressured to label yourself as one of those things. I want to challenge you for the next 6 months to not think about it, to think of yourself rather than, gay or straight or bi or whatever. Think of yourself as Rebecca or Justin or Jose or whatever. And do you know those kids, they're high school kids, stood on their feet and cheered. The relief they felt by having an adult say to them, shelve this for a while. Let's focus on you, not your gender identity, not your sexual orientation. Let's put that aside and focus on you because everything in the culture is saying, your sexual identity, your gender identity is the sum and whole of who you are. And it's not. Parents, you need to tell your kids that.
It's so important. And I don't feel like anybody is talking about that. Mm-hmm. So people don't know.
No.
Parents don't know. There's this fear that they have to have an answer for their kids, like you said, in 5th or 6th grade. And when they're at a loss because this isn't normal. This isn't what is supposed to be happening to kids at this age. Everything has been sped up for them. They're being shoved into it earlier and earlier.
Yeah. And they're really trained to believe this is hugely significant because, I'm in 3rd grade. I get letters like this all the time. My daughter's in 3rd grade. She came home and Tommy wants to be called Tammy and she's confused. What do I tell her? And I would say to her, honey, everybody lives differently and you don't have to understand this person or what's going on. We'll talk about that as you get older. But for right now, just be kind. Just be kind because parents are afraid if they tell their kids, I'm confused about this. I don't really understand it or I don't believe in it. I don't really like it or whatever, that their child's going to go into class and get some pushback from the teacher. And they don't want that to happen to their child. And so teachers are confused. Parents are confused. Kids are confused. And it's really important that we communicate as parents to our kids. If you're believing this and if you're coming home seeing this, you need to just pause, particularly kids who say they're, they identify with the opposite gender. Pause. Okay, take your time. Let's just think about other stuff now for a while because it really is so confusing for everybody. And I go into this in my book, and I also am going to answer a lot of questions about this in the community I'm forming called Meeker Parenting Community online.
Meg, as we get close to wrapping up here, I'm sure that people who are listening or who will be buying the book might feel a little guilty that they've made a lot of mistakes. They maybe have daughters who are already grown and they're maybe hostile toward them, rebellious, or even getting into some trouble. Is it too late for them to help their daughters? How can you encourage those parents who are worried about that?
It's never, never, never too late to turn things around with your daughter. We've all made mistakes. We've all made tons of mistakes. And it's really important for parents to understand that their kids always want their approval. They want a better relationship. I don't care if the daughter's 50 and her parents are 75. That daughter wants to heal the ills and have a better relationship. You know, when you think about it, 35, 40, 50-year-olds don't go into counseling because a kid bullied them or a coach was mean. They go into counseling because the most important relationships to them with their parents were never reconciled. It's never too late to go to your kids and say, you know what? I've blown it. I don't know what to do, but let me tell you something. I want a better relationship with you, but I'm going to need your help because I don't know how to relate to you. Will you work with me in changing? What kid can refuse that? Now, they may say no, no, no a few times, but eventually they'll come around. So I don't care whether your child is 10 and you're a divorced dad and you haven't seen him since they were 3. I don't care if your daughter is 17 and she's pregnant and you hate her boyfriend. It doesn't matter. Start where you are, move forward, and commit to doing whatever you can to have a better relationship with her. You got to be willing to change, but often that's a good thing.
That's so good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to wrap it up here. And Meg, do you want to tell everybody where your book is available and a little bit more about the Meeker parenting community before we close?
Sure. I'm really excited about the Meeker parenting community. I'm establishing an online community of parents that can come into a safe group. They can get advice from me. They can ask questions. I'm going to be doing some short teaching videos if certain topics come up or parents want to hear about anything from breastfeeding to talking to their kids about sex to, you know, their dating relationships. Nothing is off limits. And so I'm really excited about this. I'll do Facebook Lives. It really is a community where I'm going to interact with people, with parents, and I want other parents to interact with one another. You can find my book anywhere books are sold. I encourage people to go to their local bookstore. But if they don't have one, there's always Amazon.
Always Amazon.
Always Amazon.
And actually, if you go to smile.amazon.com, you can always go to that URL, and then a piece of that profit will actually go to benefit the charity of your choosing. So that's another way to buy more sustainably or helping others out.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course. Well, thank you, Meg, so much for sharing about your new book, Raising a Strong Daughter in a Toxic Culture, 11 Tips to Keep Her Healthy, Happy, and Safe. I know that this book is incredibly dear to your heart and is so necessary for the world that we are living in right now. And we hope that you enjoy the book and feel encouraged by it, and let us know what you think. If you buy from Amazon, please leave us a review. And thank you again for being a part of Meeker Parenting and for listening to Parenting Great Kids.
Parents, I'm so excited to let you know that I am starting a Meeker Parenting community. In this community, you can ask questions and I'll answer them. I'm going to be doing regular Facebook Lives. I'm going to be creating mini courses for you as issues come up. And you're going to be able to interact with other parents who may be struggling with the same problems you do. So go to meekerparenting.com. It's coming out soon. Now on to my points to ponder. 1. Focus on answering your daughter's deepest questions. When you intentionally work on helping your daughter know who she really is and focus on her value and significance, not on what she does or how well she performs, you will set very deep roots for her. You will ground her. She'll be far less likely to be influenced by the tough messages in our culture when they hit her. 2, help her find faith in God. You know, many parents are uncomfortable doing this, but kids aren't. I have had kids tell me they've seen angels, and their parents sit there stunned. Often they say to their kids, no, be quiet. And I say, no, please let them talk. I want to hear what they have to say. Kids are open to hearing about God. They're open to hearing about his love for them and why they created him. They want to know, why are they alive? Are they here by accident, or did a greater being put them here for a specific purpose? Kids intuitively know there's something bigger than what they see, so talk to them about God. Remember, girls who grow up with a faith in God fare better in all aspects of life. And in this day and age, they need that. 3, start where you are. We've all made terrible mistakes with our kids. Some happen when our girls are young, some when they're older. Regardless where you are in your relationship with your daughter or how old she is, it's never too late to forge a new relationship. Know that she wants a better one with you, so try. If at first she doesn't respond to you, that's okay. Tell her that you need her help in forging ahead in a better relationship with her, and that you're never going to give up. So parents, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I encourage you, check out my new book, Raising a Strong Daughter in a Toxic Culture, 11 Tips to Keep Her Healthy, Happy, and Safe. It's available everywhere. Now, let's recap my points to ponder. 1, focus on answering her deepest questions. 2, help her find a faith in God. And 3, start where you are. And parents, don't forget to visit my website, meekerparenting.com. Meeker Parenting Community will be starting up very soon, and you won't want to miss out. So until next time, parents, always remember that great kids are raised, not born.
Hey, this is Bobby, producer of Meg Meeker's Parenting Great Kids podcast. Thanks for listening, and because of your dedication to raising great kids, Dr. Meg's Parenting Revolution has grown to over 3 million downloads. Head on over to Facebook and Twitter and follow @MegMeekerMD, and check out what's new at megmeeker.com. And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter to stay updated and get information about giveaways. Don't forget to share the podcast with other parents, subscribe so you won't miss anything, and leave us a review so we know how we're doing.